today we have invited Kelly Garcia, Christina, to present on 3 modes make strategic. Sorry, I cannot talk. Yeah, thank you so much for doing this for us. Kelly and Christina are from ESU 5. They have presented at NYLA in October. So they're very nice to do this for us today. And I'm going to give over to Christina and Kelly. Are you ready?
We are. Thank you. Thank you for having us today. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to first, let's introduce ourselves. Kelly, would you like to go first?
I will if you want. So I'm Kelly Garcia. I grew up in Virginia and I loved Spanish as a high school student. I love my Spanish teacher and that's why I do what I do now. I've been teaching since 1997 and I say that as I cringe because it's been a very long time. I taught Spanish in North Carolina, Virginia, and now Nebraska, and I lived in Mexico for 5 years, and I taught English at the Instituto Moderno Americano, which was a private school that was a bilingual environment for students.
Okay, thanks. Hi, and I'm Christina Schrader. I have been a Spanish teacher since 2011 in the state of Nebraska. I started over on the western side of the state and taught for 7 years, about 6 or 7 years over at Scottsbluff High School. And then I relocated with my family to the eastern side of Nebraska, where I taught for a year at a small rural school. And then I started working for ESU 5. This is my 3rd year as a Spanish educator here. And we have been serving 16 different school districts for Spanish in our program. So we have 7 teachers, Spanish teachers throughout, and we teach all over different areas of Nebraska to schools that needed a foreign language teacher. So we have been doing that, and this is my 3rd year here with ESU 5. We're going to go ahead and talk about how to make the 3 modes of communication strategic, okay? So we believe with our department that there are 3 modes of communication that are the world language best practices. Okay, we start out with the interpretive mode in all of our curriculum that we have developed. And then we move our students into the interpersonal mode for each of those units. And then we wrap up each unit with our presentational mode. Okay, so the 3 different modes of communication is what we focus all of our curriculum around with ESU 5 in the Spanish department. We're going to start today with the interpretive mode because that's the mode that we always start with anyway when we are teaching a lesson to or teaching a unit. And so we felt that it would be just easiest to go ahead and dive into that unit idea. Okay, so the interpretive mode of communication is going to be understanding the gist at a novice level and deeper levels if you are teaching the intermediate and advanced. Okay, it is definitely a task with a purpose for listening, reading, viewing. Okay, but this is the very basic, so it's not really fully comprehended and able to spit out until the next mode of communication. All right. So in the interpretive mode of communication, we're using a lot of props, we're using a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, a lot of picture drawing, a lot of stories, matching things up. This is interpretive mode to kind of get them used to the vocabulary. What it is not, though, on the other side of our chart is it's not translations. Okay, so we've moved away from translating word for word. It's not hunting for trivial details. It's very simple concepts, simple ideas at this stage. Readings that teach all the new vocabulary first, that's not what we're looking for. We're just trying to pinpoint a few things to throw at them. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to show you some of our ideas that we do with the interpretive mode in our curriculum. Kelly's going to jump in here in just a second and talk to you guys as well about her different ideas that she does. These are all ideas that potentially have been passed around as teachers for a very, very long time. We're hoping to give you new things that have come up with those ideas, or maybe even just refresh your memory about some of those ideas. At the end of the presentation, though, please feel free to shout out what kinds of things do you do in each one of these modes of communications to help your students. Share some ideas with the group so that we can have a good understanding of what you do too, and maybe we can absorb some information from you as well, okay? All right, so let's get started with interpretive mode. Oh, I guess this is me also. Guess I get to speak again. Kelly, get ready. You're almost up. Okay, so Duolingo. Duolingo has been around for many, many years. It's a very, very fun program. You can learn all kinds of different languages. Your students can explore different languages. You can set them up as a classroom so that you can assign different tasks. You can also set it up to where you can see their progress each week for their classroom as well, too. That's not a new concept. What is new with Duolingo, though, the website Duolingo, they have added stories, and those stories are now conveniently embedded in their lessons that the students have already taken the time to learn. So once they've gone through the program on their own and independently learned, a story will pop up that has the same vocabulary that they've already been studying through Duolingo. So now it's in a story fashion, and they can understand how to use it in a real situation and answer questions about it. The other really fun thing that Duolingo has just started doing, last October, they put together a classroom quest. And the classroom quest was super simple. As teachers, we had to go on and do a Google form to register our class, whichever classes we wanted to participate in the Duolingo classroom quest. And every day they would have a new challenge to participate on Duolingo for a certain amount of XP that they earn. When they have earned that equally as a class, they earn their first prize. And I believe their first prize was a Duolingo swag bag that Kelly can talk to you about here if she has just a second. Oh, she's going to grab examples of the swag bag for you.
Okay, so yes, 2 of my classes earn swag as well. And we have pencils, we have bookmarks, we have all the things. So Christina, you'll see what's in yours too. The little wristbands, we have all the fun things. We got stickers in here and little pins as well. And that came from Duolingo, and Duolingo for Education. Is that the website you went to, Christina? Duolingo for Schools?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Kelly, here's your slide for you.
Okay, so the Duolingo podcasts, they have things you can listen to. Let's see. Are you going to hit the link, or is there a link there on that one?
Yep, I sure can for
Okay.
you.
Thank you. And then they have Spanish, French, English, obviously. So we go to the Spanish for us, and this is very Spanish heavy. Sorry about that. So you can read more down there. It gives you a little introduction in English, and then the actual episode is going to be in Spanish or French or whatever language you can choose up there. And our next resource, let's see, is the Fluent Key. And this one happens to be a job interview, the entrevista de trabajo.
Uh-oh, Kelly.
I know, sign in with Google. It should take it right in there, I hope.
I don't know if it will.
It may not work. Maybe it will.
So will you explain to us just a little bit more about, because it is going to do just a generic setup from me. So maybe just
Okay,
explain a little
okay.
bit more about what it looks like.
Basically, students will listen and follow along with the video conversation. And the one that we were talking about is a job interview, and the people were practicing interview questions and answers. So they get that hearing, they're hearing the language. I think they can also add in subtitles if they wish. You can also see what they're saying, comprehension questions. Or as a teacher, I could go there, play it in class, or assign it in Canvas perhaps with the link, and have students do that and complete the activity, just listening and writing down what familiar phrases they might hear and things like that. It's pretty useful, and it's not something I use all the time. And I think I should be using it more often than I do. Christina, have you used Fluent Key?
I have not used Fluent Key. This
Okay.
one is a new app for me.
Okay.
But that's the same thing with all of our ideas that we're sharing today, you guys. She made a really good point. If you overuse something, students get really, really tired of it. So if you overuse Duolingo, or if you overuse Fluent Key, then they get really tired of it and they don't want to participate in the fullest. But if you have a whole mixing pot of ideas and you just kind of pick and choose once in a while, different things every unit, then they're a little bit more excited to participate and to continue on with a lot of these new ideas. Okay.
Mhm.
So hopefully we'll
Right.
give you guys a lot of different ideas today. All right, Kelly, you want to tell us about Quinta May?
Well, okay. The Quinta May has a little tidbit in English to kind of set the scene. This one on the screen now is Return to Wisconsin. And it's just a story about someone who is going back to Wisconsin and what they have done. And if you click it, maybe see.
We will try. We will
Okay.
try.
I know, right? Yeah. So you
Okay.
can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I mean, there's more than one way that students can access this video or this story. And it starts out in English to set the scene, and then it goes into the Spanish, and like they said, they use comprehensible input as well. So if you're giving students the Sweet 16, the basic, most useful vocabulary, they're going to have a lot to pick up on in these activities. So I don't know if you want to listen or what, or if we can just go.
Yep, we can just go back.
Okay.
Okay, so Kelly and I have worked really hard to give you a couple of ideas that are digital. We do all of our teaching is online via Zoom. So we're constantly trying to pull in new websites, new digital activities for our students, because that's how we are based as teachers. Now that you guys also are in schools that are pretty close to everybody being one-to-one with devices, these are ideas that you can start incorporating as well too, because of course our administration spent all this money on devices, and they don't want students just to get on there and type a paper. They want them to see and do other things with those devices. So hopefully there's some ideas in here throughout that we've embedded for you, but it's also always really good just to go back to the basics. Let's get rid of technology for a little while. Let's put our computers away. Let's do something that is different, that's an interpretive mode. So Kelly has a game, a board game that we love. So I'm going to let her show you it and let her talk to you about it. There you go, Kelly.
I'm so excited. Yeah, I'm so excited about this. And it's just a game that I got from Teachers Discovery called ¿Quién es? Who is it? And even if you teach another language, you don't have to talk about things, in Spanish to be able to use this game. It's cards. The teacher will keep one set. There's 2 matching decks, same people in each one. So I usually keep the green just because I like green, and I pass out the red cards to the students, 2 or 3 cards per person till they're all gone. And then I would mix mine up and I would describe someone in the target language. Like in Spanish, I would say, it's a woman. She has long black hair. She has glasses and she has a green shirt. And then the students would say, oh, is it Beatrice? Well, yes, it is. If our cards match, then they would get the point for that. They would, something. So this can be used for any language. So I also think if you don't want to spend money on teacher's discovery, or if you're tight with resources, maybe you could have students make their own drawings of people on index cards. And then you could utilize those cards, and that might increase the student interest in the game once you play it. You could take cards from everybody and have them make 2 equal cards, and then 1 set for students, 1 set for the teacher to use as a deck to draw from. Or you could have students, the first one who has all their people described and is out of the game, that student might become the one describing. So then the rest of the class would still have the interpretive activity, but then you'd be kind of giving the student that's speaking a little push, and hopefully it's one of your more competent students who would be able to do that and give the teacher's voice a break and let students hear the target language from another person as well.
Good, thank you. Okay, so we are going to move into the interpersonal mode, the second mode of communication. I'm going to give just 1 minute. I'm going to do a 1-minute pause. And I just want you, if you are watching, to just quickly take a note on what kinds of interpretive that we just covered, what kinds of interpretive activities do you do in the classroom, whether it is on technology, or if it is in person and it is a game or a drawing. What kinds of interpretive activities do you do in your classroom that you can tell the group about at the end of the presentation? So I'm going to give us 60 seconds. And if you could just maybe jot down an idea you can share with us about interpretive in your classroom. When we get to the end of the presentation, we'd love to hear about it. Okay, 60 seconds now. Okay, 30 seconds. All right, perfect. Thank you. I'm super excited to hear your guys' ideas. Hopefully you came up with 1 or 2 ideas that you can share with the group. All right, so the second mode of communication, we've just touched on the interpretive mode. Now it's our interpersonal mode. The students are starting to feel confident with the vocabulary, and we're trying to get them to communicate, trying to get them to have little simple conversations using these words that we've been focusing on. Okay, so our next step in all of our units is this interpersonal mode. Okay, so what is it? It's a spontaneous and unpredictable form of communication. So we might throw out a quick topic, and who knows what the students are going to come up with, but they're going to stay in the target language. May not be perfect, shouldn't be perfect, but we're going to keep them trying to go in the target language with some simple words, some simple sentences, okay? Maintaining conversation by following up, reacting, showing interest, eye contact, teaching these kids eye contact or gestures or being face to face, showing that you're paying attention to the communication that's going on. What it isn't is memorizing dialogues. A lot of times we think, well, we're going to put the questions on the board. We're going to help our students answer those questions. Then we're going to pair them up. They're going to take turns and they're going to read and answer questions from this paper. That's not interpersonal. That's not really spontaneous and making them think and making them work to use what they know. Okay. It's also not a one-way communication. It's not just one person communicating. This is a flow back and forth. Okay. So we've got some ideas on how to help your students with this back and forth. And Kelly's going to talk to you about Charlala.
Okay. Charlala is fun for me. We don't overuse it. I mean, there are several assignments that my students have had. And this one, it kind of throws my students for a loop because they're not really used to having an avatar or a person talk to them and given a pause, and then they're put on the spot for an answer. But it's good for them. So there's a paid subscription for Charla, but I use the free one because I always look for free resources. This is a useful tool if you're having your students test for the seal of biliteracy, for example. This would give them some kind of practice with that. And Christina, are you able to click and get to that so we can maybe hear
Sure,
one?
we
or
can see what
Okay.
it's gonna do.
I'm hoping. I would like to start on the account. Oh, it's sign up. Okay. It's
Okay,
not gonna
so
take
if
you
I
to-
stop, Kelly, if I stop my screen share, you can share your computer screen and you can show them on your computer.
Okay,
Would you like to do that?
I think I would. If I can
Let's
figure out how
try
to
it.
get there.
Let's see.
Let me exit full screen and go here. Should I just go to the presentation or the Charla chat?
Whichever one you want to show them. I think they're both cool.
Okay. And I was also thinking while you were talking about interpersonal, with my bell ringers, I have been working on that every day or maybe 3 to 4 times a week. I've been using that for my bell ringers.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, and having just the students talk about it. Okay, let me get to share my screen. Where's my Charla? There it is. All right. Sorry, I'm not perfect at this, guys. After doing Zoom all day, every day. All right, are you able to see mine now?
Yes.
Beautiful. Okay, so we have my library here, and you can create your own, as you can see my face there, mi restaurante favorito, my favorite restaurant. So this would work for any language. It's a very good platform for your own conversations, giving students time to answer, giving them a time frame in which to answer. But with this guy, you can see daily routines. And here is the transcript of the questions. And you can play the video, and then he gives you time to answer. And you can replay it if you need to. And then when you're ready to answer, or the students are ready to answer, they just click and they're able to record themselves. And in the beginning, you might get a lot of, and then they'll hit the replay and they can hear their response before they do submit. So they have as many chances as you give them to get the right answer and to practice this. Okay. All right, Christina, I think it's back to you.
Yeah, we'll go back
That's
to screen.
true. Okay. Beautiful.
All right, here we go. So Wheel of Names. Wheel of Names is an online wheel that you can create however you want, okay? And this creates a lot of really quick, impromptu, interpersonal communication between classmates. Okay, so how I set this one up, it's a free program. It's called wheelofnames.com. And how I set it up for this assignment was with the different basic questions, okay? And I'll show you in here. When I click spin, it is going to spin the wheel and it's going to randomly stop on one of the questions. So how I use this is I have partners come up together and I hit the wheel and one of them has to ask the question. The other one has to respond in Spanish, okay? And then we can either remove that question if you don't want it to pop up again, or you can just close it and you can hit the wheel again. And we get all excited. It's the wheel of fun. Okay, and now we have a new question. So then the question pops up, a partner asks the question, the other partner is going to respond in Spanish to this question. So the design of this setup is to make it completely spontaneous. We don't know where the wheel is going to land. We don't know what is going to happen, but how are our students going to respond on the fly? And that is our interpersonal piece that we're trying to hit right now. You can also do this for anything. I have set up wheels with numbers to put them into groups, into partner activities. I've set up a wheel with verbs so that in interpretive mode, they have to stand up and they have to do the action that the wheel stops on. So there's all kinds of different ways you can incorporate this wheel. It's just a matter of how do you want to incorporate it. You save it and it's ready to go for whenever you want to access it. And again, this is another free website, which just creates a little bit more fun for people. Okay, running dictation. We do a lot of this. I'm sure a lot of Spanish teachers do this. A lot of foreign language teachers do this. I'm pretty sure I picked this idea up from one of my friends who's a German teacher over the years. But I do it a little bit different because a lot of times with running dictation, you set them up and you want them just to come back and read to you or say to you what they went and found, what phrases, what questions did they go find? Well, that's not really interpersonal, okay? So how I set it up is a little bit wordy. And if you guys need these, if you need anything from our slides, we are more than willing to share these slides with you guys too when we're finished presenting. But I set it up in groups of 3. And I have one person who is going to read the question first from the wall, because I spread them out all over the place, get them up and moving and running. Okay, so I have one person that goes over to a question on the wall. I have another person that has a piece of paper back at their table. They're the writer. And then I have a third person in the group that's just hanging out, waiting for their job, okay? So when I say go, the reader is memorizing the question that I put on the wall. The reader has to come back and say the question to the writer. The writer is going to answer the question, is going to write the question down on their paper. The responder has to listen to the whole process and figure out how to respond verbally to the group. And once that responder has given their answer verbally, then we make the reader go back and write the answer on the paper, okay? But that doesn't happen until the responder verbalizes their answer, okay? So we don't let them cheat. We just make them have the conversation before they can keep with the steps. So it's a little bit trickier. It's a little bit different than what people are used to doing with running dictation, but it hits the interpersonal mode, which is what we're trying to do. Okay, we're trying to get them communicating, not necessarily memorizing and writing, right? So that's kind of how we change up the running dictation to make it more interpersonal. Okay, Kelly, do you want to present about the presentational mode?
Okay, well, this is something that students have a chance to practice and polish, like for any presentation. It's one-way communication from the student to the audience. So they have time to practice their verbs. They have to get things right. They have to take suggestions and incorporate feedback from the teacher into their presentation. And they have to be aware of who their audience is. For example, if they're talking to a group of their peers about how to play basketball, that's a little bit different level of communication than if they are presenting how to give CPR to adults or something. You know, the audience matters and they need to be conscious of that. But they're going to have to hook in their audience, make it interesting enough for everybody to pay attention. They can look up words on wordreference.com. They can look in a paper dictionary. But the whole point is it's a polished presentation, one-way communication from the student to the audience. There's no negotiation of meaning. You know, typically people are interrupting and doing things and they're not writing for the teacher. They're communicating with peers and others, community members or whatever.
Correct. So the presentational mode is our third mode of communication that we use every unit in our department, in our curriculum. And like Kelly said, this is where they are showing us what they know. They're the star, they get to shine, and they need to show us, what have you learned for this unit? And let's present it. Let's make it perfect. Okay. So they get to take the time on these different projects to have a rough draft, have the student feedback, have teacher feedback, and then polish it all up and get ready to present it for the class or for the teacher. So we have different ways that we do presentations. Okay. So we try to switch it up, try to make it fun every unit, something different. And then after we've done a few different types of presentations, then we turn it loose for the students to really decide, okay, so now in this unit, I have options. How do I want to do my presentation? Because we've given them plenty of ideas on how to do presentations. So then we turn it loose to them and let them choose, okay? One of our websites that we love to use is also free. This one is called Voki.com. Voki.com is fun. It's easy to use. It's been around for quite a while. But it allows kids to present in their own voices, but without that video in their face, without that video feeling, that scared feeling because they're watching how they feel or how they look on a video. Yeah. So they create their own background on Voki.com. They create their character. It can be anything. It can be a famous person. It can be an animal like this student chose. It can be an alien. It can be, I don't even know. I think they even have plants that talk. So you can literally set the students free, let them be creative in their own way. So then what they do is they have 60 seconds. They get to video 60 seconds of their voice recording, okay? So they have their presentation in front of them. It's been polished. It's perfect in their opinion and their minds. They're ready to hit play, and they're going to record a voice behind this character. So it's just kind of goofy, kind of fun, but it's a way to get them to record their own voices. So I'm going to click on this. This is one of my students, and this was one of his presentations that he turned in for us on Voki.com. Takes just a second to load. Make sure I have my volume on for you guys. Okay, then you hit play.
Me llamo Jadrian. Vivo en Nili. Yo juego deportes y escucho música. Soy atlético y camino. Tengo 15 años. Tengo pelo negro. Se llama Jason. Vive en Nili. El trabajo y escucho música. Es camino y
Okay, so again, that little video piece is showing you that they're using their own voice to create this, but they get to hide behind the animation that they chose. So they get to have a little bit of their own creativity in the piece, and they also get to use their own voice. So you can clearly hear your own students with Voki.com. There's not any masked audio to it. It's nice, clean, clear, crisp, and it's their own, but it's also their own piece of creativity. So we really do like the Voki a lot for an option. Another couple of digital options that we do for presentations. We have the program, well, not the program, but the site called postermywall.com. Postermywall.com is a poster creating website. It is free, again, to students, to anybody. And you can go on and you can literally get lost in posters. There are probably 50,000 different templates. So you can use these posters for anything you desire. But what we do is we get our students on the website and we let them be creative again. We tell them the basic instructions. You have to have this number of pictures. You have to have this number of sentences. Now go create it. And they create these awesome posters that you can then print off, you can hang up, or you can just display them in slides like this as well too, to show off their work and their presentation mode. Okay, so this is their final polished product. So this is Poster My Wall. Storyboard That is the final online tool that I'm going to show you guys that we use for presentation mode. Storyboardthat.com is a free website also, and it is set up to be designed like a comic strip. Okay, so they'll give your student a certain number of squares in a comic strip for the free mode, and then you can go in and you can edit anything. You can design the background of it, you can design the bubble, you can type your text in there, you can design the person that it is displaying. You design and create the entire thing, but it's all in a comic strip style. So it looks like a digital comic strip. Okay, so in this case, the writing is super small, but the students were challenged to write about their daily routine. And so this student was telling me when she got up that she wakes up her little sister, that she helps her little sister get ready, and then she gets her little sister on the school bus, and then she goes to school. So this is her daily routine that she shared with us through a comic strip format. Okay, Kelly is going to show us the non-digital presentation format.
I think she might be calling me old a little bit, showing the non-digital. I'm doing the old school. Okay, these are called lap books. And basically you take two folders and put them together so that they're not overlapping all the way, just somewhat, so that you have a big workspace in the middle. One of my students a couple of years ago happened to do this one, and you see they've decorated it on the outside. And this is a unit that we were talking about. I do something, and then we do something, like my family and I. So it's the first person, and then plural and singular, and then he or she does something. So we have a lot of activities that the student can illustrate on these. Okay, and if you look at the one that's actually on the screen there, it's got about my family. This is introducing their family, how old people are, all the things. And then things that he or she does, like that one says, my dad watches TV, my sister swims, and my uncle works. Then we have we. So my dad and I go fishing, for example. My sister and I go shopping, or my uncle and I go on vacation. So the students are able to demonstrate any way they wish on paper. They get to print pictures. A lot of them want to use their own family pictures for this. It makes it very personal for them. And a lot of them have really fun pictures from family vacations or just in general that they want to use. So it gives them an outlet for their creativity, and every one of them is going to be different and entertaining. So they have time to get feedback on the verb forms or the material that we're looking over. And then we just turn them loose with the folders, staple them together and let them go. And it's very good for the students to be able to do this. They have a lot of fun with this, or they have in general. And I really like looking at them. They're entertaining for me to grade as well. And, you know, as teachers, we get tired of the same old thing all the time. So the kids do too. And this is one way that every one of them is different and new whenever we're doing our grading. So it helps us too. Lets us get to know the students a little bit better.
It allows them to be creative again too, without being on technology, which they are on all the time, right? So it allows them to kind of take a step back and do something that puts a little bit more thought process behind things, a little bit more meaning sometimes behind things too, and really get to create what they want to create. So we've had a lot of success with lap books. The only thing I would suggest with them is to not start it off at the beginning of the year as an activity. Maybe push it back to where they have a little bit more vocabulary, a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more things to talk about, so that they really can portray a lot. Because if you're thinking about three folders or two folders stapled together to make 3 panels, it's quite a bit of area that they need to cover to make it look good and to really reflect to their knowledge of things. So it's a great activity. We did this one during right before Christmas was our time frame. So they kind of wrapped up some of the stuff that they've learned from other units, and it gave them some downtime right before Christmas break to really just get some scissors and some ideas going, and pens and crayons and whatever. So it's a good
And they
idea.
love to color, don't they? Don't they, Miss
They-
Schrader? They love to color.
They do, some do. I think actually, I kind of secretly think all do. I think they just kind of sometimes pretend like they don't because they don't want to seem like they like to color. But mine
Right.
usually get pretty excited when we color.
Same.
Okay, so here's another close-up of what she was just talking about, what she was showing you. Here's the 3 different panels. She took 2 manila folders, opened them both up, and stapled 2 sides together. So you can see right here in the middle picture, there's staples right here. That is where she stapled the 2 folder sides together to create a 3-winged piece of project. Okay, so that's simple how they did that, just 2 folders.
Yes.
And here was another example where they had a lot of great ideas, a lot of great things that they wanted to display. And so this gives you a more better example as well too of what can they do with this. They can just fill it up like crazy with their own personality.
Yes.
Okay, so I was not fabulous because I forgot to pause and give you guys a minute to share your idea quickly on paper about what you do in your class for interpersonal activities and what you do in your class now for presentation activities. But we would really love to hear your ideas. We would love to hear your comments. We would love to hear your questions. We have time. So if we want to unmute, if you guys would like to unmute and join us, we are done with our portion of the presentation, and we would love to just take your guys' questions and comments and ideas specifically. We would love to hear ideas as well. Anybody have anything? Kelly, do you have anything you want to add?
I just appreciate people coming and hearing our ideas, and now it's time for them to tell us some stuff. I'm sure they have some tricks that we haven't mentioned.
Yeah, I think just now Yu 老师 put up his hand. Yeah.
Yeah, hello. I'm using EdPuzzle in my school. So do you think it's a very different from Fluent Key or from the one introduced? Or it's a very similar, say?
That's a good question. I don't use a lot of EdPuzzles, but I do know that the EdPuzzle has questions embedded in it and it won't go on until the student has answered. Is that right, Ms. Schrader? You've used it
That's
more
correct.
than I have?
Yes,
Right?
yes, that's correct. So we do use EdPuzzle as well in some of our curriculum too, some of our extra activities for our students. And I do feel that the programs are similar. There might be a little bit of different features. I feel like EdPuzzle has not really evolved, if you would say, over the years that it's been out there. So I feel like it's still very black and white on the features that it offers. They're great tools. But I feel like if you move over into Fluent Key, that you'll start to see a little bit of different ways to do things as well with those same types of videos. So it might give your students a little bit more ideas, or you some more ideas as well on different activities, but yet you're still getting the same results. Does that make sense?
Okay. Well, the biggest reason is actually paid by school. So we'll utilize the paid tools first.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, Kelly loves free. Kelly
Yes.
thrives on free. So we try to find things all the time that are free.
想好。
Okay,
Yeah.
anything else?
I like the I think EdPuzzle does not have a live one, but live game mode, right?
Yeah, it does have it, which is that you
Oh,
actually
okay.
can live, which if you sign it to as assignments, actually you can do it as a live with students. So students can answer the questions the same time. Which is sometimes if we did it in the classroom, they don't need to do it at home. So it does have the live function too. It when you answer, actually it could give you 3 different type of like modes. One, it could be the multiple choice, could be just a notes, or actually you can type to respond to the question. So it does give you that. I think it's a little bit. I do feel it's some similarity there. I haven't used Nikki. I think I signed up before, but I probably will dig a little bit deep to see how it works.
Perfect. So we're seeing in the comments as well in the chat, FlipGrid. Yes, FlipGrid is a lot of fun. It now is just called Flip, right? They're kind of transitioning. Their program is transitioning too, and doing some new different changes. But yes, we do FlipGrid a lot with our students too. It's a great way for either presentational mode. You could also hit it as interpersonal mode. Or if you just put a video on FlipGrid and you want them to ask or answer some questions, simple questions, even in their own language, then that would allow it to be an interpretive mode too. So you can really get all 3 modes out of the FlipGrid program. That's a great one. That's a great suggestion.
Yeah, so true.
So
And
I
if you
have a question. Do you know, Crystal, how many people in this group are part of the Apple program or the Apple testing, the national testing for foreign language?
I do. We actually do take Apple tests from 6, 7, and 8. So our 6th and 7th will take it during the May, just before the end of the semester. 8th grade, since they go and move to high school, so they will take a little bit earlier. December is the time they take Apple.
Great, great. And I see on here in the chat that somebody else uses the stamp, very similar as well too. Great. So we use the Apple test for our Spanish 2, 3, and 4 students. Oh, so we test them every year as well too. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to take those Apple demos, and we're trying to create some consistency in our program as well, in our curriculum, so that they see those things more often. They see the matching and they see the different interpersonal or speaking or the email writing, things like that too. Do you do that in your program too? Have you found some stuff that really works to help feature those tests?
Personally, not really. What I do is kind of just focused on the topic, because most of the time it's more about whether they're familiar with the topic or not. For example, it's about medic or body parts, which is if they know the vocabulary, they usually got it. If they don't know, they just, oh, what is talk about? So it's more about that. So familiar with topic is more the main strategy I'm using in the classroom now. I do like your idea, which if you can imitate the real test and then let them actually get familiar with it, it will be very helpful, because sometimes they get scary, especially for our younger kids. It's the first time they're taking it, and then they sometimes don't know how to answer. I remember one of my students, when it's the first time he take the Apple test, he actually typed pinyin, which is the phonic letter, not the character on his test. So I guess yes, it will be helpful if we can find something like that. But unfortunately, I'm not having lots of resources like those.
Not lots of those. We're just starting to do that. So it's pretty new for us as well too. We're just kind of trying to collaborate and see ideas on that too.
So Miss Schrader, also someone said in the chat they were wanting to try storyboard that. And one of our other ideas, which one was it? Poster my wall. So I said, please, if you try any of our ideas, feel free to email us and let us know how you like them or any comments you might have. We would love to hear from you as well, because we're a community of language teachers. So, and I think honestly, the fluent, I mean, not the fluent key, but the Char-la-la might be something that all language teachers could explore, because there is a free option. If you just email the one who started it, his name's Chris Hammer. If you email him and say, hey, can I try a free account? Then he is very kind about letting us do that. And then you could create your own speaking activities, for example, to give students experience with having an avatar speak at them, and then, or someone speak at them and then give them a pause and put them on the spot for answering.
Okay, we also see Storyjumper in here. This is new to me. Would you be willing to unmute and tell us about it real quick?
Hello. Hi, Christina. Hi, Kelly. Thank you. Thank you so much. So Storyjumper is like, I don't know. Let me see. Let me show you. Okay. So Storyjumper is like the student, they can record their voice, and then they can add some emoji, some pictures, and also they can tap the sentences, so they can present. So we can use the three modes together, either presentational or interpersonal or interpretive. So it's also a good combination for the three modes.
Okay, that's fantastic. I'm gonna play around with that tonight. I want to see that one.
Yeah, it's
Thank
a free.
you.
It's a free. So I
Oh,
create.
we love free.
Yeah, I created like in my class, I created the whole class to join this Storyjumper class. So I group my students like 3 or 4 or 6, so they can make their individual book, or they can also make their group book, and they can share with everyone. And also they can print out, but when you want to print out, you have to pay.
Oh,
The
okay.
hard copy. But if you don't want to print out, just like an electronic one, it's free.
Okay, I love it. Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing that idea. That's great.
You're welcome.
Okay, Ms. Schrader, that brought to mind student treasures. They offer teachers the opportunity to do a free book, student treasures. And I believe the business is out of Kansas, if I'm not mistaken. If you go sign your students up, I put it in the chat, student treasures. Hang on just a second. Let me grab what I can about this. The teachers get a discount code. So the company is basically trying to sell the parents of the students books, but you don't have to buy anything to get your free class book. And usually when we do it, I always buy a book for each of the schools that participated, just because they have it in their library then, and their students are published authors. So if it's free, it's for me, and I'm all about it. So I would look into student treasures as well. If you want paper.
Will you explain what you have put in the book? What do you put in the book?
Well, you could have a theme, or you could, and they do also do this digitally. You can do a digital book or a printed book. I prefer the printed because I'm old school and I like paper in my hands. But you just contact them and ask for a kit, and they send you a kit, and then you start talking to the students and you find out what they're good at writing. Like, do they want to write a book of fairy tales in Spanish or Chinese or whatever, or find out what your students are good at, and then make that the theme of your book. Like, talk about your families. Like, you could have them say, if it's a level 2 or 3 class, hey, why don't we do some simple reading practice, reading stories about our families for the Spanish 1 class or the level 1 language, so that it could be used in other classes that are lower level and have higher level students write about their families and their hobbies and or just getting to know each other about themselves. So you can make anything you want the theme. You can make a special Christmas edition if you wanted, or Day of the Dead, or Chinese New Year, whatever you want.
And then the company, of course, the reason why they're trying to sell it is because us as a mom, we want
Yes.
whatever our child creates, right?
My
We
baby
want to
wrote
go,
it. Yeah.
oh, my child put that page in that book. I have to buy the book now. That's a good company right there. That was good. That's a good idea. I could see it. I envision it as like kind of like that lap board or the
Mhm.
lap book, where instead they write it all out and they draw illustrations, and then you submit each one of the students' illustrations to put into a class book. That would be really cool. I like that.
Each student is responsible for 2 pages, the story page and the illustration page. So yeah.
I like that. That's a neat idea. Thank you. That's cool. All right. Does anybody have anything else they want to share, want to add, questions?
If you want to see, actually, I can share my students' Storyjumper product.
Oh, cool.
So this is mine. So I have different classes, so students can log in and actually like see those. That's actually is one of my old students. She is in high school now, so she actually like make the story and can
Cool.
write it and edit it, and you also can voice over the page to do that. I think Storyjumper is more friendly with I don't know, you use Chromebook or you use the Mac.
We use all different ones in our schools.
Okay, so if you have a Chromebook I think that will be more friendly to a Chromebook, which is a PC system, Microsoft. If it's iPad, probably is not that good. So that's part of reason I did not use it very frequently. But if you have a laptop, or if it's you have a MacBook, probably will be helpful because it's web-based. So if you can use that, that will be something actually you also can try.
That is really, really neat. I love it. And I actually have a unit coming up soon that I think I might have my students try that in.
Yeah, and you also can let other students to watch, to share, which is you could allow them to cooperate on some of the book. So there's possibility. And when you down the book, there's a price. So actually you can in other words, sell that. Or you actually can pay the money to let the publisher to actually print out and email it to you.
I love that. Thank you guys so much for sharing that idea. I love it.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Thank
All
you
right.
all.
Do we have anything else, or Crystal, are we done?
Yeah, actually, I have a question for you. Have you used a Pixit?
No, I don't think so. What is it?
What is it?
It also allows students to make comics. And there's one feature I really like about it. It's like they allow students to make their own avatar.
Can you
And
pop that in the chat?
Pixton. I like that.
so that's the staff picture, or you can do a class photo with your students with all their avatars. So this is our photo I did with ESU sitting with your friends, Christina.
Oh,
So
I
this is
love
me.
it.
So I actually during COVID, when we have to teach online and everybody need to teach online, students are so isolated at that time. I use Pixit, so all the students created their avatar and we have a class photo and they love it. In that way, they still have their sense of community, we belong to the class. I use the class photo everywhere, and they use their avatar. Their avatar, they can download their avatar. They use the avatar for their presentations, even in social study class. They can change their outfits, they can change their face expressions and, gestures and whatever they want. So my students really enjoy that. Besides that, students can make comic books.
That is neat. I love that. I can see using that class picture like
yeah.
on Canvas for their specific class or on like Google
Cool.
Classroom. That'd
Yeah.
be neat. I
That
like
would be
that.
fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So that's, it's, you can pay for that. It will offer you a lot of, background and themes and things like that. But I'm pretty okay with the free version. We all like, free stuff, we have to say.
Oh, yeah.
So it's Pixit. I'm putting it in the chat.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've got to
Yeah,
try
this
that.
is
I'm gonna have to
great.
do it.
We have a great conversation and share ideas. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Yes, thank you, everybody. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah. If we do not have any more questions, I think we're good. We're good to go. What do you think?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Take care.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kelly. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad Christina was available too. Can't do without her. All right, Crystal. Nos vemos.
Bye.